So they have fallen for it again. What have they fallen for? Well, they've fallen for the belief that Trump cares about them at all and has their best interest, not even really at heart, has like their best interest at lung or something. But he doesn't, as we knew, as anyone would tell you, right, if they were paying attention. Trump does what he wants and what will get him power, which is why Trump is in a pickle right now. So, here's the problem. He kind of overplayed his hand, I think, because, as this says, he is trying to say, I don't understand why people care about Epstein, right? Let's see it. Yep. He's been dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. That's a really funny sentence. I don't understand what the interest and what the I don't understand what the interest and what the fascination is. I really don't. All the credible information has been given. I don't understand why the case would be of interest to any. They spelled it wrong. Would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's solid. It's sordid, but it's boring. Maybe I'm just stupid. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. A lot of his supporters, especially the really right-wing people, the solidly Trump-supported people, do want to keep going. So you're calling your own supporters and your vice president bad people, which is funny. Anyway, all right. So Trump's in trouble. Basically, what happened was before the election, he was talked up as a guy who was going to release the Epstein files. He's going to release them, but he's not. The reason he's not, at least I think, is because he may or may not, and I won't say whether he is, right, for certain reasons, right, I won't specify, but he may or may not be implicated on them, right, as well as, others, because you'd think if he wasn't, he'd have no problem, his Department of Justice would have no problem releasing that information. They would have no problem if it implicated Bill Clinton and not him, because that would be very bad for the Democrats and very good for him. But now, this situation has become very bad for him, right? I mean, the fact of the matter is, everybody wants to know who is involved. You might have to sift through the evidence and try to find some people. I still think it's important, right, to use the evidence to find out who's involved, because with these horrible crimes, right? Something we can all agree is horrible, something that's pretty universally agreed is horrible. Now, the thing is, the right wing has been very heavy on it because of their belief, one, that all Democrats are involved in it. But what's important is that what they have failed to mention and think of and consider is that Trump has also had extensive connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Extensive. I mean, his friends, there are pictures of them. Jeffrey Epstein called Trump a great friend. Their connection is undeniable, right? This is something Trump's tried to back away from, right? Maybe his supporters will claim once he knew what was going on, he stepped back, or he was off-putted at some point and stepped back, whatever. Even then, your best case is he knew and didn't tell anybody, but whatever. But if they say he did not have a client list, which probably, sure, I guess, right? But there's certainly evidence that could point to some people. The point is that this, before the election, was a really, really big talking point. Not a big, but kind of like a big underlying thing, right, that Republicans are really harping on, which was the Epstein files are something Biden will not release, right? It is something Trump will release, something Trump cares about releasing. Now, he didn't say anything about this, but he also let this go, and yet here we are when they are not. And while, yes, I do, there are defenses to be made, right? You can specifically just say, well, maybe they're right, there is nothing. It's very weird, right? If there was nothing, you'd think maybe Trump would have gone a vibe. There was nothing toward the end of his term. I mean, he had half of 2019 and half of 2020 for his Department of Justice to investigate it, while the Department of Justice was already investigating Epstein for years before, right? So you'd think if there was nothing, he would have said there was nothing, or, more likely, he was banking on his supporters using it as a driving point to try to get votes, and then once he's elected, he was banking on them to drop it. Right, he makes a big show of releasing a bunch of nothing documents with tons of redacted information and hoping that everyone would just be happy with that. And they're not, thankfully. However, I do believe that this will probably blow over. I wish it wouldn't, but I know how we are. I know how people are. People do not want to think about one thing for very long. And I would not be surprised if we see this become a common sentiment, at least among the powerful people in that party. Yeah, but I think when I close this discussion off, I want to talk about not just this specific story, but why this became a talking point for Republicans with no evidence that Trump cared about it, or cared about it in terms of releasing it. And I think what I'm going to say about it is that I think Republicans, Trump's voters, operate a lot, which they're one and the same at this point, operate at kind of a way of you come up with what you want to do, vote for Trump, and then you spend your time trying to find a reason. I think most people I find who do not describe themselves as Democrats would just wanted to vote for him, and you'll talk to them and they'll come up with any reason why this guy is their desired president. And of course, I find it disheartening, right, that people will try to build the result before they build the evidence. But I think stuff like this, stuff like them being the pro-peace ticket, stuff like inflation being high 4 years ago at this point, for 3 or 4 years ago, causing all of this, even though inflation has been returning to normal through the end, right? And gas prices dipped below 30 toward the end of the Biden presidency. People still voted for Trump, and I think it's because people want to vote for Trump, and people only won't if there's something like the storm of COVID and BLM that happened in 2020 that turned enough people off from him, right? But I think for a lot of people, the natural state is voting for Trump. So do I think that many people are convinced to vote for Trump because of the Epstein stuff or because of the pro-peace ticket stuff? Not really. I think it's more likely they were going to vote for him and they were just going to find any reason to explain why they did. His supporters, they fell for it again. They will always fall for it. They'll fall for it when J.D. Vance runs in 2028. And I will clip this and I will post it in 2028 when it happens again.